We're coming up towards the end of HAQAST, so I wanted to take this opportunity to start highlighting some of these really great data sets. And so this is going to be real brief, 1 to 3 minutes. And just want to get you introduced to some of the faces and the teamwork behind all this exciting data. So with that, Tracey, you want to do this one? Okay.
Thank you. So one of the things that my team has been working on for a while has been developing resources and how-tos to do some of the things that we've heard are often priorities for our community. And so on our HAQAST website, we have a section data and tools, and this includes links to popular data sets, some video tutorials, some resources on getting started. But we've also developed some more specific how-tos. And one is on using Google Earth Engine that Jennifer McGinnis will talk about in a few minutes. Another is taking gridded tropomi NO2 data, which is available from a few sources, including Dan Goldberg, and pulling that into a GIS framework, since we found GIS is preferred, especially for a lot of health analysis. And for a lot of the data challenges that we face, Python is really the only way to wrangle the data effectively. But even folks who've taken Python classes and training may not have been taught ever how to use netcdf files in Python. And so I work with a lot of undergraduates. In fact, many alumni and current students are in the room here. And we found over the years that we don't want to require computer science as a prerequisite. So we've developed a suite of Python tutorials that are intended for people with no prior coding experience, no prior Python experience, nothing. And it takes you all the way through 8 tutorials up to using netcdf and remote sensing data. So those have become popular around the world, and those are just some resources that might be helpful. Okay, who's next?
I think I might be next.
Okay.
Okay, so along that line, I also wanted to plug our flowchart of resources and tools, also designed with help from Jennifer, which has been updated by our team, and some of you folks are helping also contribute. So this is a way to, if you don't know where to start and you're thinking, oh, there's so many data sets, this is another way to kind of ask questions and guide yourself to figure out what data set might be most appropriate for your needs. So with that.
Hello, everyone. I'm Susan Anenberg from George Washington University. One of the things that we worked on with HAQAST was estimating PM 2.5, ozone, and NO2 concentrations and associated disease burdens in all cities worldwide, and there's about 13,000 of them. So we then worked with the Health Effects Institute and Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, IHME, both as part of our HAQAST project, to communicate those data to a wider audience. So on the bottom here, you see HEI's State of Global Air website. They created a cities version of that website where you can interact with the website and get quick answers for what concentrations are in your city of choice. You can compare against other cities and look at temporal trends. We also have the data available at the top. You see our own group's website, urbanairquality.online, and it is also interactive, and you can map things, you can get graphs. It's very interactive. You can hover over the cities and get concentrations, disease burdens. You can actually compare 4 cities that are involved in a network like C40. How do they compare against other cities in the same region? And I'm really happy to say that IHME, which produces the global burden of disease studies, just came out very recently with the 2021 version, which includes NO2 and pediatric asthma incidents for the first time, using our estimates that use OMI satellite data to generate global estimates of NO2 concentrations. So check that out if you haven't seen it already. Thank you.
Continuing from George Washington University, my name is Dan Goldberg. I've been using tropomi data and gridding it. Here I'm showing some data that is now publicly available on the NASA Earth Data website. You just either click that link or just type in HAQ_tropomi_NO2 and on the Earth Data website, and that'll get you to this data, which I'm showing at the top there. It's continental US gridded to 0.01 degrees, approximately 1 kilometer spatial resolution. We also have a global product, which isn't quite on the NASA archive yet. It will be coming in a few weeks. That's what it looks like there at the bottom. That is gridded slightly coarser spatial resolution to 0.1 degree by 0.1 degree, approximately 10 kilometers spatial scale. But these are annual averages or monthly averages, variety of different applications. We'll be talking a lot about NO2 throughout this entire meeting. So I encourage you to check those data sets out if NO2 sparks your interest. And then also I've added one more slide in here about a website that I maintain on a daily basis. It's called tropomino2.us. I checked it out just a few minutes ago. It's still working. It looks like it's good. I don't know if 200 people go at the same time. I don't know if it'll be able to handle that, just a local website. But here's just a snapshot from a few days ago. What I like, or what I do on this website is I show PNG plots of daily tropomino2, but what is I think important for especially people who haven't used the data before is I show ratio plots. And so how was NO2 on that particular day compared to an average day in that particular season? So on this particular day I'm showing here is that NO2 in Florida was larger than normal, and that was I looked at this example up specifically that's probably likely due to lightning knocks, but you can just peruse these at your leisure. I have these going back for a few years now. And yeah, just these are available the next morning. So if you want to take a look at yesterday's NO2, you can go click on this website. You'll have yesterday's measurement in early afternoon at the next morning to just check it out for yourself. Okay, thank you. Randall.
Thank you. So I'm excited to share our latest release of the satellite-derived PM2.5 data sets, version 6. An earlier version of this data set was included in the Cool Cities data set that you heard about from Susan. The top left panel is showing you a recent illustration from these data. The bottom left is describing the algorithm. So it begins with satellite aerosol optical depth from a variety of different satellites, MODIS, MISR, CWIFs, VIIRS, inversely weights by their relative errors with respect to AeroNet to produce an overall composite estimate of aerosol optical depth. Then applies a chemical transport model, GeoSChem, to relate that aerosol optical depth to ground level PM2.5, producing geophysical estimates. And then there's a subsequent deep learning step. That's the novelty in version 6 that predicts the bias between those geophysical estimates and ground-based measurements to produce the final data that's available for you, monthly, gridded at 1 kilometer, available on that website. Next.
So Arctic is warming very fast, much faster than global average. It's about 4 times faster. And while Tempo cannot say Arctic very well, fortunately enough, we have all the great tools from NASA. We have MODIS, VIIRS, and Calypso. So we're using those satellite tools to understand PM2.5 during fire season. As a matter of fact, that wildfire is very, very bad in Arctic. This has received very little attention. On the other hand, the tribal communities in Arctic has been suffering a really long time. This has been a very long standing problem, and we are trying to use NASA tools to develop a relationship to understand the surface PM2.5. And we've been using models and all the tools, and our first attempt shows that we are able to derive surface daily PM2.5 more or less pretty okay, and we're still working towards that, and this is an ongoing effort, but we are hoping to share this surface daily PM2.5 during wildfire season with public, and so they can understand this data for public health purpose. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jennifer McGinnis. I'm a current grad student at Colorado State University. And today I'm going to be talking about Google Earth Engine for health and air quality applications. So Google Earth Engine is a web-based platform that allows users access to satellite data from MODIS, Sentinel, and Landsat for data manipulation and plotting without having to download the data. For a little bit more information about this, I wrote an article published to the Air and Waste Management Association, EM magazine, in the December 2023 ozone issue, kind of just talking about ozone sensitivity and how to plot the formaldehyde to NO2 ratio within Google Earth Engine. And for a little bit more of a step-by-step tutorial, those are published to the Holloway Group website. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. So I realize the slide's a bit busy. One of the benefits of being local host is we have a lot of team members here. And so I wanted to advertise where you can go for more information. This project was motivated by the question of, in health studies, there's often just a single exposure data set that's used, but there's uncertainty in our understanding of what those exposures are. And so my co-I for HAQAST, Mariantiana Kiamortsoglu, through her NIH funding, she's way in the back there, through her NIH funding, has been developing this very non-novice sounding title of the model, but this Bayesian non-parametric ensembling method. And you can, if you want the technical details, learn more about that. But they're generating nationwide ozone, PM2.5, and NO2 under that project. And for HAQAST, we're optimizing for the Northeast US. And what you're seeing here is a data set for New York State that some EPI studies are going to be undertaken in Marianthi's group in collaboration with our New York State Department of Health collaborators, including Tami Adiai, who's one of our HAQAST ambassadors, and Tabassum Insaf. And so up in the left corner, you're seeing 5 different available daily PM2.5 products for the Northeast, one of which is Yanglu's product, so HAQAST data set. And then this BNE framework, which if you want to learn more about the workflow and the tool will be publicly available. Jaime Benavides will be talking about that in a flash talk. And then we have a poster by Carlos Carrillo Gallegos and my group here at MIT and Vijay Kumar at Columbia that's showing the 2010 to 2016, just a few snapshots of what's available for daily PM2.5 that will feed into the health studies and also will be stored at CSIN or CDAC with our co-I, Susanna Adamo, who's also here and giving a flash talk looking at heat, tree cover, and pollution along urban-rural gradients in New York. In addition, these data sets from the BNE output, which I should emphasize include spatial and uncertainties mapped in space and time, along with the best estimate of however many input data sets you're running through, are also going to be incorporated into the stress visualization platform that my colleague Adam Schlosser in the Joint Program for the Science and Policy of Global Change, which he is the deputy director of, has developed. And actually, there's already some HAQAST data sets in this, including Randall Martin's PM2.5 and this data set, which is out of Joel, sorry, that's not a HAQAST data set, but out of Joel Schwartz's group. The real benefit here is we were hearing yesterday at the Health Effects Institute pre-workshop or workshop ahead of HAQAST that it's really hard to pull together variables from different sectors. And so what this does is brings over 100 variables from different, you can read the titles at the top, together and allows a user to define their own combinatory metrics that weight risk according to the variables that they care about and can allow for some initial hotspot analysis. There's some other great features. It's working to be expanded. If you're interested, I'd love to talk to you and connect you with the tool. So next up is.
Thanks, Arlene. Good morning. I'm Yang Liu from Emory University, Rollins School of Public Health. So this is one of our core projects, and the partner here is the American Cancer Society. The American Cancer Society cares about the prevention, the study, the research of cancer. What we did with them here is to create a large nationwide high-resolution fire smoke data set to support one of their study initiatives, which is cancer survival. And the idea is that they want to know if you got cancer, you receive surgery, would any environmental risk factors affect your survival after surgery? It's not talking about the onset or the incidence of cancer, but how long can you survive after a successful surgery? And what we find is pretty interesting. Even if you live close to a fire, within 3 months of your surgery, you're 40% more likely to die. If you live near a fire, 3 to 6 months after surgery, you're 20% more likely to die within a year. Right? So there's some pretty, I want to say, shocking findings out of this. And then the ACS is highly interested in using spatially comprehensive exposure and other environmental information in their cancer research. So we're extending this data set to 2019 and 2020. Hopefully the data will be made publicly available at some point. This is another collaboration we have with the CDC Environmental Tracking Network. This partnership has gone through several generations of NASA researchers working closely with CDC scientists. And then I want to attribute this to the health and air quality program, especially John and Lawrence Friedel before that. This is a very long-standing, highly successful, highly visible partnership. What they did for tracking is they're congressionally mandated to present a surveillance system for health-related environmental risk factors. And their tracking portal presents over 300 different indicators, both environmental data and social and economic status information. And we provided a satellite-based UV radiation data set for them. We extended this data set during this round of HAQAST to 2020, and we included Alaska and Puerto Rico per their request. Tracking is a very well-established partner. If you want to write a health and air quality proposal, it's actually included in the RFA. For examples, go to CDC tracking, look at how they use satellite data in their system. Tracking now evolved to develop highly thematic dashboard functions they call powered by tracking. So the UV data also is used in one of their melanoma dashboard to support CDC's campaign for sunscreening applications in elementary and middle schools. So if you're interested in that, feel free to talk to me or go to visit the CDC website. Their public data is county level, but they do have an API that will allow you to access our raw data, which is at 0.1 degree resolution. Thank you. Who's next? Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is, sorry, maybe a little allergy there. My name is Qian. I am from the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston, School of Public Health. So what I study is a little bit different from what others have talked about. I study light at night or light pollution. And trust me, it is indeed an environmental hazard and a public health risk. So what we have done as part of the HAQAST program is that we take the satellite data as part of the Black Marble data suite developed by NASA, and we projected light data to the administrative unit in the United States. That means the census tracts and counties. And we have studied light at night in relation to disease risk. And as an environmental justice issue, that means in relation to social variables. So shown here on top is on the left-hand side, you have light. On the right-hand side, you have the social vulnerability index, which is the index of social vulnerability developed by CDC, and this is Chicago. And you can see those two images mirror each other, which means that neighborhoods with higher social vulnerability are also to be neighborhoods with higher levels of light at night. And in some epidemiological studies, we have linked higher levels of light at night with various types of cancer with sleep deficiencies, no surprise there, and obesity and mental disorders and total mortality. And by the way, I'm going to talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. And using that data, as I mentioned, we have projected the data into counties and census tracts, which are now available on NASA's website. And also we have collaborated with CDC. And yesterday they told me that they expect to have the light data on their environmental tracking project by the end of this summer. So those data will become available by CDC very soon. And we also developed a dashboard, which I have a screenshot at the bottom, and I have the link up there. And this is showing the state of Texas. This is county level. So if you move the cursor, you can get to the statistics of each county in terms of the light levels, a little bit comparison across years, and also ranking within the state. And we're further refining this dashboard and hopefully having it available at census tract levels. Now we have all the entire country and also adding in more years. So if you're interested in light, you can come talk to me or attend my talk tomorrow. Thank you.
And Daniel Tong, I didn't get your slide, but if you want to come up and just tell us what HAQAST is.
Thank you, Jenny. Good morning, everyone. Daniel Tong from George-Mason University. I don't have a slide, but I just want to advertise a new product we come out for wildfire forecasting. As you all know, wildfire forecasting is very challenging. There are many products coming out. The user always confused, like which one should I use? So we came up with an ensemble forecast that's showing to be outperforming both of the individual models. So working with NOAA, NASA, and Naval Research Laboratory, we came up with this new ensemble forecasting that's right now is currently available, NASA, and also we have a project website. I will be talking about it tomorrow. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. So I know that was kind of like a lot of information at once. So I just want to, let's give a round of applause to all of our PIs. Really amazing to see that much work that's been done. And also want to thank John, Haynes, and Tracey for the overviews. And we're ahead of schedule. I didn't expect this. So I want to take this time if people have questions about what you've heard this morning, especially sort of general questions, and to also say for all of these data products that we just heard about, a lot of folks have talks and posters later. Well, they can expand longer than a minute. So at this time, I don't know, John and Tracey, if you want to come back up, and we'll see if we have any questions here.
And wildfire, is there any movement towards prescribed fire being included in some of these research products?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. The question was from Nancy and talking about whether prescribed fires were part of the projects too. And the answer is yes. Quite a few of our projects actually focus explicitly on prescribed fires, and many of the same data sources that are available for wildfires are also available for prescribed. Thank you.
Yeah, in fact, in the first round of Tiger Teams, a project led by Dr. Amber Soja from NASA Langley was on prescribed fires in southern Florida, as well as in Kansas, Flint Hills, Kansas, yes.
Hello, good morning. Jesse Marquez, I'm with the Coalition for a Safe Environment. We're an environmental justice nonprofit organization participating and learning as well. My question is for Xiao regarding the brightness of neighborhoods. Is data available for all states and specific large cities?
Shen, did you? Oh.
Yes, so the data is available all across the country. It's not limited in large cities. And as I mentioned, the NASA, I think Earth data does have our census tract and county level for all the counties and census tracts in the US. And CDC is planning to, their data will be a little bit different from the NASA, just the way that they are processed, but it should be largely equivalent. And they will have data available by the end of summer as well.
Thank you.
Good morning. I think my question is a little bit focused on how HAQAST has operated. It's a really interesting model. You have a very large team of collaborators, and can you both comment a little bit on how that experience has been, and are there learnings and lessons for how other organizations can think about setting these types of research partnerships? Because this was a great showcase of work that has happened. Thank you.
Well, maybe I'll let John start. Okay, I'll start. So I'll say that, we've been evolving for about 10 years, and this idea came from NASA with the idea that a typical grant might be something that an investigator thinks of in their office for 6 months, and then waits 6 months to find out if you got the funding, and then waits to hire a graduate student. And so then really the results are coming out on a multi-year basis. And this framework just doesn't work on the timeline of most operational organizations. And so if the NASA wanted to be putting data into the hands of organizations that could use it, and realized that a different funding mechanism was necessary. So it was the vision of Lawrence Friedel and John to launch this as a team, and with the idea that there does need to be, it goes through traditional peer review like all other NASA funds, but then there's also additional funds to support rapid response turnaround projects, and that those are collaborative across the team. Because one challenge we've seen over the years is that the problem of one organization might not actually map onto the research expertise of anybody. But if you take enough people who are working in overlapping fields, we can probably figure out a way to tackle it. And so I think, one of the things that we've learned over the years is the importance of two-way dialogue. Early on, our meetings had one day where the scientists presented, and then one day where stakeholders presented. And what we found is that actually a lot of stakeholders didn't come to day one. And so what we wanted as things evolved was to have every conversation to be a two-way dialogue. So at our meetings, almost every panel is 50-50 scientists and, stakeholders in the broad sense of people who are maybe not paid as their main job to use NASA data. We've sort of tried to make that something. We've also, everybody has the same speaking amount, because we don't want it to say that like the scientists are speaking to the stakeholders. Everybody is speaking to each other. And that's one reason we have this extended time for Q&A, because the goal isn't just to answer 3 questions and then move on. The goal is actually to talk through these issues when we've all taken the time to come and be together and things like that. So, I think that we've also just leaned into communication. And I think, Jenny has been amazing in this role, and before her, Dagan Miller. And, I think this idea that you really need somebody with expertise and time and dedication to be building the partnerships. We send newsletters, we're on social media, there's these meetings, but really a lot of the main back and forth happens over Zoom calls, over phones, and many of our PIs and co-investigators regularly give talks at community meetings or professional things. So I think part of it has been building kind of a culture that validates and recognizes kind of a two-way information exchange.
Absolutely. Couldn't say it better. It really building a team, a collaboration where the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. And it was a novel idea when this was first discussed at NASA over a decade, 15 years almost ago. But I always say, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, because if you look across the Earth Action Program now, we have all these collaborative teams and consortiums that have been formed, like the Western Water Office and under the Water Resources Program, and NASA Harvest under the Agriculture Applications Program. And it was all because they came to us and said, we want to replicate the success that you've had through HAQAST. And from our leadership, that line I showed in the president's FY25 budget request, that's responsive science initiatives that will be added to applied sciences to make Earth action. The #1 example that NASA leadership presented to the White House was HAQAST for responsive science initiatives. So, I mean, it's at the top level. We get a lot of fire drills. I get a lot of fire drills, me, Helene, and Laura get a lot of fire drills every week from, it could be from the White House, it could be from a congressman or senator, it could be from our leadership, where they won't give us examples right now of something awesome that's going on in health and air quality. And you don't know how many times it comes to HAQAST. Just last week, as Daniel Tong knows, worked with Daniel Tong just last week on a slide that went to leadership on his work on improving dust forecast at NOAA. A day later, my leadership came to me and said, we need quotes from stakeholders about what they're doing with the work. Do you have any of those? I was like, we have all these awesome HAQAST ambassadors on this webpage with all these testimonials. Yes. They're like, oh my gosh, thank you. I mean, you don't know how many times they come to us, and HAQAST leads the way in answering the call on these issues. So it's just really been my honor to work with you.
That was an amazing showcase of the projects. I'm excited to hear where HAQAST is going next. If you could share a little bit about the current RFP that is out, if there are some target areas that you are focusing on.
I mean, if you have perused, and I'm sure many of y'all have, the HAQAST solicitation that's currently out, again, it's ROSA's A.44 under in the NASA Inspire system. There's no surprises there. It is, I don't want to say complete carbon copy because some policies have changed and things like that, but it is almost identical to the HAQAST ROSA's 2020 solicitation. So, I mean, if it's not broke, why fix it? You know, we are looking again across the gamut of issues of air quality and environmental health. And I mean, you just saw through this amazing showcase of our PIs and what they're working on. That includes a very large scope of work. I mean, all the way from things you traditionally think about with air quality, but to things like artificial light at night. So it's a very large scope of work. And in the solicitation, you know, we list topics, but we say this is not exhaustive. Certainly, and this is for any solicitation at NASA, certainly if you are thinking, first of all, the NOIs are due today, but they're not required. So if your juices got flowing here and you didn't put in a notice of intent by today, don't worry about it. They're not required, they're just requested. The final proposals are due in a month. But if you have any, you know, questions that you would like to ask me about a potential idea, or, you know, in a way that I can help generally or answer some questions about solicitation, please feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call. My contact information is in the solicitation for that reason. So.
Jesse Marquez, Coalition for a Safe Environment. John, just like you made a reference to your ambassadors, you ever watched the Pawn Stars where he says you never know what's going to walk in that door? Well, we're a 23-year-old nonprofit group specializing in, you know, air quality and public health. I get a call from, at that time, our congresswoman's staff saying that in 2 hours, she was going to be testifying before some congressional committee and needed some quick air quality public health data. And yes, she could have called up the California Air Resources Board and the California Department of Health. She had 2 hours to be ready and knew that since we're always activists, you know, the quoting data all the time, we will give her the information like quick now to be prepared. And so, you know, we fall into that circumstance also when we're asked rapid response questions and answers, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I mean, it's amazing to harness the power of this team and this group. I mean, not only 14 investigators, 70-something co-Is, hundreds of partners and collaborators making up this team. And I mean, you know, as I said, it's kind of like, it could be a fire drill, a rapid response request, a crisis, an issue going on. And me and Tracey have always kind of laughed. It's like the bat signal goes up, but it's the HAQAST symbol. And people pick up the red phone and start calling us. And it's just really, I mean, it's really an amazing, I mean, really gives me chills to think about where we started and where we are now and where we're going in the future is just even bigger. Another thing I'll mention, just another awesome thing, is that it was on my chart in the slides, but I was going quickly, so we had time for questions. NASA launched last year a new Earth Information Center, EIC, which is meant to be kind of the tip of that pyramid of educating the public and public outreach on why NASA, why Earth science, why is this important? And the first is both a virtual space at earth.gov, but it's also a physical space. The first physical space was at NASA headquarters. So we transformed our lobby into this interactive Earth visualization center where the public can come in and look at, different visualizations, go in a dark room and be surrounded by data and the Earth and all that. And one of the first things that we launched in that Earth Information Center was work by Dr. Susan Anenberg looking at air quality across the District of Columbia. Again, they came to us at HAQAST first and said, we want to feature that in NASA's lobby from the very start. We are soon to be opening a new physical space at the National Natural History Museum on the Mall in Washington, which is actually the most visited museum in the world. Had no idea about that, because I was like, why aren't we at the Air and Space Museum? They were like, more people actually go to the Natural History Museum, gets to see the dinosaurs, but we're going to be there too. And then we're going to launch a third one actually at Kennedy Space Center's Visitor Center in the coming year. So more to come about more HAQAST being showcased there. So don't be surprised if our folks are in touch for more visualizations and more showcasing our results.